Welcome, Patriots. God bless you. Welcome to Patriot News Broadcasting. My friends wanted to join me here on this Eddie Van Halen t shirt Friday. Every day should be Eddie Van Halen t shirt day, right? Where are you going, man? Where are we going here? So it's good to see you guys. A lot of things to talk about today. Is Trump dying? Did we capture Maduro already? Things like that. A lot of good things to watch, and I think that'll help clear up a lot of it. But, I got a little tiny bit of information too. I just have to do something with the pit bull on my lap first. Good to see you guys. Love you guys. Let's move this here. you know. Um we'll work around this. Trump's not dying, and they don't point out the part where JD Vance, tells you how healthy he is and how good he's doing. And we had talked about this a few days ago about the situation with his ankles and the veins, and uh, we're going to look a little bit more into it today. And I know that it's mainly a topic because some guy made a video, some physical therapist guy, and there's like millions of people watching it. That's just a short story of it. But there's a lot of bull crap going around the day, to be honest with you. Every story I've seen today has had some kind of I don't even know what to say. Junk with it. Junk. I'll just say junk. I wanted to start with the fight. I mean, these guys, I've said it before and I'll say it again. If our Congress did things this way, maybe we'd get more done. It's been a long time since I took Spanish class, but I'm pretty sure there was a get that camera out of my face somewhere in there. Um, why would Nino bring it up? I don't know, to be honest with you. I've watched a lot of his stuff, and I don't know if part of it's, I don't want to say an act. Maybe he really feels that way. Maybe he's following bad information. We're gonna look deeper into it. I mean, a lot of people are talking about it now because of this little video that this guy put out yesterday. It's been seen millions of times. And the pictures have been coming out, I guess you could say, of him with swollen ankles and some makeup covering the veins on his hands, which we talked about. And, he's been checked out quite a few times. Um, all that fighting in the Senate, they're really getting heated up. Our military's reached the Southern Caribbean, and the further south you get, they're wondering if there's going to be war in Venezuela. This is a bit of an uptick from where we were. There's a few more warships added there. 3 guided missile destroyers, a guided missile cruiser, nuclear-powered attack submarine, and 3 amphibious ships to the waters off Venezuela. Warships carrying 4,500 personnel, including 2,200 Marines, against... I don't think they're gonna attack. I think they're just getting a good idea of what Maduro's got, or maybe somebody else is gonna attack. Maybe some other people are involved in this. But I want to show you something that came out a little bit ago, alleging that we already caught Maduro, and I don't know what to make of it. This is the only thing there is about it, but you can see what you think.
Breaking news: in a stunning overnight operation, U.S. Special Forces have captured Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro alive. According to Pentagon sources, a covert team of Navy SEALs stormed a secure compound in Caracas under the cover of darkness. Within minutes, Maduro was taken into custody and flown to an undisclosed location. This is the most daring U.S. raid in Latin America in decades. Witnesses reported explosions, helicopters circling the capital, and gunfire near Maduro's residence before the official announcement broke worldwide. President Trump is expected to address the nation within hours, calling the operation a turning point in Washington's campaign against drug cartels and authoritarian regimes in the hemisphere. Reactions are already pouring in. Venezuela's military is in chaos, with loyalists vowing retaliation, while opposition leaders celebrate what they call the end of dictatorship.
Maybe somebody's just thinking hopefully, I don't know. It's definitely been a couple hours now since I came across that, and I don't believe Trump's addressed the nation, but maybe that's maybe they're just getting ready for it all. I don't know what to make of it. You gotta sort of guess on that one. I guess we'll find out either way. That's the other side to it, but we do know the military's down there now.
The tensions between the United States and Venezuela are rising amidst a large U.S. naval buildup in the southern part of the Caribbean and nearby waters, which the U.S. official says aims to address threats from South American drug cartels. Washington has deployed about 5 warships and 4,000 troops to the Caribbean to pressure the leftist strongman. Now, U.S. President Donald Trump has made cracking down on a drug cartel
I like the way he said the leftist strongman. And obviously, like I said, they've upped it a little bit. There's some more personnel and warships on the way, but we'll find out, won't we? It is pretty badass, gotta admit. There's something there. I mean, in real opinion, for all we know, he was captured a long time ago, and they're just playing out the movie. It all could be a part of that. We're gonna I don't know if you guys watched Nino earlier today. Juan was supposed to be on there, and I don't believe he ever came on. I didn't watch the whole thing. It was getting pretty far into it, and he hadn't made it on yet. And I know he was traveling, I think, back to the United States, because I had asked him about doing an interview this weekend, and he said he was traveling. But I do think he ended up doing Nino's Corner, which they cut on Juan Osama presentations. We'll look at it, see if he talks about it more, but I think you'll find it's nothing to worry about, and I don't think it's part of the plan in any way. I think it's just the left doing whatever they can to take your mind off of everything bad they're doing. Anything to capture the news, because that's what they do. And of course, Donald Trump revoked Kamala, her Secret Service protection, according to a copy of a letter reviewed by CNN that was in the evening last night.
Almost half past the hour on your Friday morning. And wow, some major breaking news just coming into our newsroom right now. We are currently learning that the White House is revoking the Secret Service detail for former Vice President Kamala Harris. This coming in just the last couple minutes here during commercial break. News Nation's Libby Dean is live at the White House with the very latest for us. Libby, what more are your sources telling you about what led to this?
Hey, Marky. Yeah, this is continuing to develop this morning with President Trump revoking former Vice President Kamala Harris's Secret Service detail after it was extended under President Biden. A White House official just confirming that to me moments ago. Now, former vice presidents, they typically receive 6 months of Secret Service protection, which would have expired for Harris in July, if not for this order that we're learning that former President Biden signed after he left office. And that order was that Harris's detail be extended a year. So more than that 6 months that former vice presidents typically have. Now, Harris actually is set to have her first major public appearances since the election in less than a month. The start of a book tour is coming for her to promote that memoir that we have covered.
It's an on time for her book tour coming up. Now, I know, for presidential candidates, it doesn't last long. For vice presidents, I thought Secret Service details lasted longer. Generally, they said there's a 6 month. I think typically they let it go over the 6 months, but it's pretty quick, huh? I guess maybe Trump's just not wanting to waste the money. There was a letter he sent. I don't know if I have it or not. I don't think I do. Money saved, my opinion. The German unemployment tops 3 million, highest for a decade. It doesn't sound like a lot for a population of 84 million, but you do the math, it's like close to 5% of the population not working. For those of you in Europe. Trump's health. Yeah, we're going to look at this. Vance did assure USA Today that he's ready to be president while hailing Trump's health. But again, they left out that he pointed out how good a health he's in, that he's perfect health, he says, according to J.D. Vance. But I'll show you the story that kind of got it started. Got to get to the witch woman broadcasting it.
That's why his hands have been bruised and covered with makeup. Badly, I might add. We know that it's getting worse because he knows he cannot hide the degree of swelling. That's why he's sitting behind the desk.
God damn, what the fuck? They talking about Trump got 6 to 8 months to live.
You look like you got about 2 months
What's
to
going
live,
on?
lady.
We got some breaking news. There are some alarming pictures that just came out that raise more questions about Donald Trump's health. Now, I have a lot of photos here to go through, but first, we also know Donald Trump's health is not great because the White House was forced to talk about this after mainstream media failed to put pressure on them, but independent media put the pressure on and they were forced to talk about it. That's why it's so important to hit like on this video and subscribe, because we can get results the way that mainstream media and corporate media cannot. Here is Caroline Levitt having to talk about the fact that Donald Trump is not doing well.
And me.
Sense of caution, this concern was thoroughly evaluated by the White House medical unit. The president underwent a comprehensive examination, including diagnostic vascular studies. Bilateral lower extremity venous Doppler ultrasounds were performed and revealed chronic venous insufficiency, a benign and common condition, particularly in individuals over the age of 70.
Okay, so they're saying it's benign, but I have some reporting here from a doctor who has seen Donald Trump. Obviously, he can't examine Donald Trump directly, but seeing what he has.
I love how they twist words up. And keep in mind, this guy about to talk, he's not a doctor, he's a physical therapist.
Seen and knowing what she said, here's what this doctor has to say about Donald Trump's condition, and he thinks that Donald Trump actually has congestive heart failure.
Doctorate in my field. I see congestive heart failure patients on a daily basis. The reason I know that he has congestive heart failure is because of the swelling in his feet and ankles. And the reason I know it's getting worse is because he's sitting behind the desk on camera now. He lashed out against MSNBC for giving him hash about his ankles. This is how we know that something is true, because it gets to Trump. Remember recently where he was talking about going to heaven for some fucking reason? He says, people said I'm not doing very well. I don't think he's talking about the media. I think he's talking about the doctors who are treating him. The only reason his health has been maintained at all is because he has the privilege of getting IV diuretics, spironolactone, Lasix, Bumex, something like that. That's why his hands have been bruised and covered with makeup. Badly, I might add. We know that it's getting worse because he knows he cannot hide the degree of swelling. That's why he's sitting behind the desk. Oh, he also has chronic kidney disease, which is also contributing to the swelling in the feet and ankles. I can't tell you how many times I have seen a patient in their home because they were hospitalized for...
This guy, I'm telling you, you can't say that somebody has chronic kidney disease or any of that based on swollen ankles. I'm 39 years old. My ankles swell sometimes in certain ways. My mom's, older. Her ankles swell. She's alive. It happens for a lot of reasons, including arthritis on the lesser end of things. And so I want to point that out. You're pretty stupid to diagnose something like that, especially out of your field.
AKI, or acute kidney injury. And the kidney injury was caused by nephrotoxic medications, namely diuretics, spironolactone, Bumex, Lasix. The president is definitely getting sicker, and we know he's not going to change his diet because he's such a fucking idiot. I think he's going to be around for 6 to 8 months tops. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
Well, that's one person's opinion, but as you said, this is very obvious because Donald Trump has been taken photos of many times where the makeup on his hand is just completely obvious.
Bro.
So that little video is the video that went around millions of times over the past day or so, and got everybody all in a stir. Some people think, they're prepping us for something that's going to happen. I just don't see it that way. Trump's an older guy. He's on his damn feet all the time, is he not? That's my opinion on it. We're going to look at some other things, and now I'm going to wait till the end of the news part to get into the weird stuff tied into the shooting the other day. I'm about over talking about it, but there are some weird things people were talking about today. Some concern that Iran has executed at least 841 people this year, according to the news.
Inside the halls of the United Nations in Geneva, officials from the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, OHCHR, delivered one of the starkest assessments of Iran's use of the death penalty in recent years. The statistics were shocking. At least 841 executions carried out since the beginning of 2025, up until August 28th. The figure, announced by OHCHR spokeswoman Ravina Shamdasani, reflects not just an alarming rise in numbers.
I just have to point out that, they told you the same lie about Saddam Hussein and Gaddafi. And I don't know that they're lying here, but it's certainly a lie they like to tell when they're doing their deep state news, which they're still doing. Sort of like this situation here. It's funny how, Trump just will not touch on Israel. And there's a lot of things tied into the government right now that seem to be backing Israel. But there are some people still speaking out against it. Matt Gaetz, Marjorie Taylor Greene, they're pretty vocal about this stuff, and of course they get called anti-Semitic for it. But the army said they retrieved the remains of 2 of the hostages from Gaza who knows?
Israel has confirmed that the body of one hostage and the remains of another have been recovered from Gaza and returned to Israel. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu confirmed the identity of the recovered body as that of Ilan Weiss. In a statement, he said, in an operation by the IDF and Shin Bet in the Gaza Strip, the body of the late Ilan Weiss, who was held by the murderous terrorist organization Hamas, was returned to Israel. The operation also...
You know, in a way, I blame that on Netanyahu. They said they were going to do an incursion. Hamas spoke out, and said they were willing to talk about a prisoner swap, an exchange. And with the snap of a finger, Israel was invading. So I don't know if they even gave them a chance. And, you know, I'm sure they've done this dance before as far as ceasefire talks and peace talks and swap talks, but you got to give peace a chance, don't you? Isn't it better than thousands and thousands of more deaths if you have even a teeny little hope at peace, you know? I don't know. That situation really frustrates me. Turkey is cutting them off. Some people say Turkey's declared war on them. I don't know if I'd go that far, and I haven't seen that wording used officially anywhere. They've cut off all economic relations with Israel. They've shut off all their airspace to Israeli aircraft. They're blocking vessels from entering the ports. They're basically severing all ties with Israel. And it's weird because Trump did something very opposite of this. We'll look at barring all ships. This isn't in English.
Filistin davası ülkemizde tüm kesimlerin savunduğu öncelikli bir meseledir. Yaptırımlar bağlamında dünyada Türkiye'den daha...
But I show it to you because it's a push for a Palestinian nation, which a lot of countries are supporting right now, but not Trump. He's refusing visas to any Palestinian officials for the upcoming United Nations summit. Here, I believe it's here in this country, obviously. In other words, he's making a declaration. We're not going to recognize a Palestinian state, which is very different from what the rest of the world's doing.
To it. We will be going to it because the key organ of the UN entrusted with the maintenance of peace and security is failing in shouldering its responsibility, especially when you have 14 members demanding action and one member and that has the power to not allow the council to act from not going along with them. Then therefore, you go to the General Assembly when the Security Council, what do
you think Trump's idea with, I mean, you know, what are your thoughts on all this? Looking at it from that 40,000 foot perspective, there's something deep there. I don't know. You know, SG Anon shared something earlier on Telegram. I didn't copy it, but it was a picture, and beneath it, it said, wait until they find out about the skin suits for sale or something of the sort in Israel. So they sell human skin there somewhere on a black market, I'm guessing. Why? I really don't want to know, but coming from SG Anon, I don't know. We're going to hear some stuff from him tonight, too. By the way, I wanted to point something out to those of you that just particularly want to hear the news part of this show. Every night after the show ends, I'm going to start clipping off the intro and the stuff at the end. And I've got a category now called Just the News. And every day. I'm going to post that, and it'll just be the news portion of what I do, if that's what you're looking for. An Edgar suit. Yeah, it's kind of like Men in Black. But what I'm saying is, if you think about it on a deeper level, and even what we learned about Ukraine on a deeper level, and I'm not just talking about the biolabs, and even particularly the biolabs working on weapons that target specifically Russian DNA, but I'm talking about the adrenochrome and the blood stuff, organ harvesting, deep evil shit side of it. And makes you wonder the way they seemingly shy away from the Israel talk, what the deal is. Feels pretty evil, doesn't it? Macron is saying that Putin has played Trump if he doesn't end up meeting with Zelensky. That guy is like, can't about handle anymore. Emmanuel and his nanny, whoever he's married to. That's no woman, that's a man. What do we got here? These don't really go together. The corrupt Ukrainian regime in Kiev has officially begun the process of a formal ban of the entirety of the Ukrainian Orthodox Church, and with it, one of the oldest denominations of Christianity, having issued an order which declares the UOC to be an affiliate of the Russian Orthodox Church, which Ukraine defines as a foreign religious organization whose activities inside Ukraine borders are now prohibited. So it's sort of like they're taking the oldest sect of Christianity there and saying it's too tied to Russia, so we are prohibiting it now. We're banning it. They're trying to push out the citizens there that are Russian. And there's a lot of them, which is also pretty evil and not surprising. There's a war on Christianity. That's where, that's the depth of it. And if you want to go further, a war between good and evil, which they say constantly, and you better believe it. That's really the depth of it. The new Texas map has officially been signed into law by Governor Abbott this afternoon.
This is Governor Greg Abbott. I'm about to sign the law that creates the one big, beautiful map that ensures fair representation in the United States Congress for Texans. I want to thank Lieutenant Governor Patrick, Speaker Burrows, Senator King, Representative Todd Hunter, Representative Cody Vasut, and all of the legislature who stayed in the Capitol and got this law to my desk.
Yeah, it's funny. Some people in the government do the jobs they were hired to do. Isn't it amazing? If only we had more of that going on. This post is what got my head in a spin this morning. Olivia Giuliana, failed former DNC male youth outreach coordinator, is facing backlash from her own followers after revelations that she pocketed $8,000 a month from dark money Group 1630 fund to push scripted talking points. Holy hell. So this woman, man, I don't know, whatever I think it's a woman, during the election, is getting paid $8,000 a month to put out, anti-Trump stuff and pro-leftist stuff. And here we are working for free and doing our research for free and spending hours a day on it. And these lefties are getting paid $8,000 a month, or at least this one was.
So this woman here has been let go from her role as being the DNC's young male voter outreach coordinator due to poor performance.
Context. A few months back, news broke that the Democratic Party was investing $20 million into winning back the young male vote. One of the biggest voices leading the charge was the influencer Olivia Giuliana.
As the saying goes, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu.
She has been elected as the champion.
No offense to her or anyone, but do you really think that's what young men want to see, even in general?
To change young men's viewpoints.
I love young men. I love frat guys. Even the ones that identify as conservative are almost always pro-choice. You'd be surprised at the number of them who support a Black Lives Matter. If you actually talk to a young guy about how he feels about immigration, am I allowed to cuss on this?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, they don't give a shit. They don't give a shit about immigration.
They absolutely care. They're the ones that are the most affected by it. What are you talking about?
And before they start calling Asmund a Nazi.
You think we should open the borders and bring in a lot of low-wage workers? Bring in all kinds of people who work for $2 or $3 and make everybody in America poor? Then you're doing away with the concept of a nation state. And I don't think there's any country in the world which believes
I'm just saying that's how out of touch the left is. They're trying to get through to young male voters by using an adult female. I mean, that's so absurd in its own right, you know. And I'm not meaning it in any offending way, but it's just, it doesn't make sense, you know. It's like putting a 12-year-old on the board to reach people over age 65. I don't know. They're not very bright on the left. No one accused them of being either. The 9/11 families are getting their lawsuit. The federal judge denies Saudi Arabia's motion to dismiss the suit. All this time, can you believe it? This is wild.
A landmark ruling clearing the way tonight for 9/11 families to sue Saudi Arabia 24 years after the September 11 terror attacks. A federal judge dismissed a motion calling for the case to be thrown out. He rejected the argument that the kingdom has sovereign immunity. The judge says the overwhelming amount of evidence presented warrants any warrants and warrants a trial, rather. This includes witness testimony, FBI files, and declassified material. The case can now proceed to discovery and trial prep.
I wonder what they're looking at exactly. I'm sure there was Saudi money out the ass involved, but it's a weird lawsuit. I gotta say, it's not very specific. Are they just suing the country? There's got to be, I don't know. We'll have to look at that one for sure. President Trump moves to bypass Congress to rescind $5 billion in foreign aid, and he did it overnight.
Absolutely. President Trump, meanwhile, cancelling nearly $5 billion in foreign aid. These funds have already been approved by the US Congress, with some lawmakers calling the move unlawful. However, the Trump administration says it's using a rare pocket rescission to do so. The administration also says the president has this authority under the Impoundment Control Act. Elena Treen, explain that one to us.
Yeah, a lot of wonky terms that are involved.
We don't need to know the wonky terms. He can do that under the Impoundment Act. It's a good question there, Tressa. Will Saudi Arabia be the ones to expose 9/11? I think something to do with this case might lead into it. And now that Saudi Arabia is heavily on Trump's side, why not? I think we're headed there pretty quick. We still got to deal with Russiagate, and really they're trying to focus everyone on the election fraud next, mainly, as far as I know. I think there'll be arrests before we get to 9/11, but maybe it all ties in. I mean, they're all getting RICO'd. I mean, it's RICO. They're all, it all ties in like a big freaking rubber band ball from hell. Does that make sense? Seen that in the intro. The guy that ICE arrested who, was living in an at-home daycare in San Diego operated by his wife. He's a DACA recipient, also a confirmed gang member, and has prior sex convictions involving children under the age of 14, sexual battery, illegal possession of a firearm, driving under the influence, and robbery, of course, on top of all that. And again, living in a daycare. How can you not want ICE to do their job? Speaking of which, they're still hiring. I don't know. Homeland Security is putting out a call for people, and they'll train you even. You think there's something tied into that they really need more people? I don't know. Oh, the New England Patriots. God, I hate that team. When I did watch football, I hated the Patriots. Their new uniforms are called the Storm. I like the color. It's a cool color. Can't stand that team. I don't know if it was Tom Brady or Bill Belichick or just both combined. You saw this in the intro too. Somebody had to fix it there. I am Q. Wouldn't that be cool? Melania was Q the whole time. She's wearing the pants. You never know, man. You never know. Thought I'd throw that in there. Appeals court says Trump unlawfully leaned on emergency powers to impose tariffs. Trump says he does not give rats behind. He's not going to comply with the appeals court ruling that declared his tariffs illegal. His exact post and words here not that long ago. All tariffs are still in effect. Today, a highly partisan appeals court incorrectly said that our tariffs should be removed, but they know the United States will win in the end. If these tariffs ever went away, it would be a total disaster for the country. It would make us financially weak. It really would. I don't think he's stressing that enough in this post, honestly. It would be a disaster at this point. It really would be. And all the money that's about to come in, all the corporations that are about to come back, all the jobs that are coming back to the country, thanks to this and the tariffs and the move and the standoff, it would be treacherous. And that's what the left does. And that's what the right used to do, too. They've been killing our economy all this time. It's nothing new to them. It's just what they do.
A big defeat for President Trump. Breaking news in our money lead. A federal appeals court has just ruled against President Trump's sweeping global tariffs, saying he unlawfully leaned on emergency powers to impose tariffs. President Trump just reacted to the tariff ruling, saying that all tariffs are still in effect. He called the appeals court highly partisan and said that the United States Supreme Court was going to get involved. Let's bring in Neil Katyal. He represents some of the plaintiffs in this case. He's also the former acting U.S. Solicitor General for President Obama. Neil,
we're going to move on. Supreme Court, that's where it'll end up. Kilos of fentanyl were found in a diaper box. This out of Atlanta.
Federal agents recovered enough fentanyl to kill 2.7 million people in a diaper box. And they arrested an illegal immigrant in Stone Mountain. Agents say they saw Alexis Bocanegra handling illegal drugs worth nearly $400,000. During the arrest, they found an AR-15 and more than 5 kilograms of fentanyl in a Huggies diaper box. He is now charged with possession with intent to distribute fentanyl and possession of a firearm by an illegal immigrant.
Isn't that amazing? All that's why I tell you it's a weapon of mass destruction. One illegal alien carrying one diaper box loaded to the top with fentanyl, enough to kill 2.5 million people, probably more by my estimate, but depends on what it weighs. That's a weapon of mass destruction right there. That's why they do the job. That little bust right there, that one illegal alien. All those lives, so many lives. That situation is so serious. That's why they have to do what they're doing right now. That's it in a nutshell. That one damn diaper box full of fentanyl is why this stuff has to be done. After a 5-year-long battle, Delta's agreed to pay $79 million after a plane dumped thousands of gallons of fuel over homes and schools in California during an emergency. Look at this for a second.
After a nearly 5-year legal battle, Delta has agreed to pay nearly $80 million to settle claims 2 of their pilots dumped jet fuel onto thousands of homes in Cudahy and in Southgate. KCAL's Lori Perez with our story tonight.
I'm just thinking that's a lot of fuel dumped over homes and schools, a lot of money for it. I wonder what they would give everyone for all the other crap they're dumping over your heads.
When this happened back in 2020, people did not know what to make of the liquid raining down. And for some, that panic never really left.
People that live in Cudahy, Bell Gardens, they have been victimized over the years by different environmental issues, if you will, and marginalized. And this was a way for them to stand up to the largest airline in the world.
Attorney Filippo Marquino says he's been fighting for nearly 5 years, not just for money, but for respect for South LA families who were literally dumped on by a Delta jet. It happened on January 14th, 2020. The airline says a Boeing 777 that had just left for Shanghai had engine trouble and needed to return to LAX, but was over its max landing weight by about 160,000 pounds. This is cell phone video of that plane as it dumped fuel over thousands of cars, homes, and businesses. In a class action lawsuit, Marquino argued the plane was too low and never should have emptied over densely populated neighborhoods.
Our contention was that the fuel jettison was not necessary. The plane in question is a Boeing 777.
The ocean was right there. Are they just too afraid to dump it over the ocean because of the afraid the engine would go out? I don't know. That's pretty dangerous at that altitude. I would be pissed too. I swear, these stories today. And, you know, after what's been going on between Trump and Pritzker and what Trump said, if Pritzker had just invited him for help, the governor of Maryland decided to do just that. And he's now invited Donald Trump to send government support to help clean up Baltimore. An official invitation.
Governor, I appreciate the investment, but it would just seem to me if despite that investment, Baltimore still ranks 3rd in the nation in violent crime rate per capita in the nation, that you would welcome in the President of the United States' help if crime in Maryland. And as to the point of partisan politics, it's simply the truth. The truth isn't partisan. And the truth is most of the major cities in the United States are run by Democrat governors, and they're also the highest rate crime cities in the country. I'm on limited time, and I want to give you a chance to address something,
I would
though, Governor,
absolutely
because President
welcome
Trump brought
federal
it up.
support.
Apparently, there we go. You would welcome federal support. That's wonderful to hear.
I would absolutely welcome federal support.
Happy to hear that.
But I also know what federal support is going to be necessary and required. It's the reason that I've said we would love to have additional support for license plate readers, things that we know can actually stop crimes as they are happening and making sure that people are brought to justice, and not having $30 million cut from public safety budgeting that is coming from the federal government. That I would love to be able to make sure that the federal government can do things like ban ghost guns and making sure we're eliminating these extended clips.
Translation, send us money, not soldiers.
For Glocks, which essentially are turning Glocks into automatic weapons. I would love to make sure we're investing in local law enforcement, because we are watching cuts that are happening to local law enforcement and also gun safety funding.
Governor, we can't let all of that stand in the way of the immediate solution being offered by the federal government. Well, you can't let all of that stand in the way and be an excuse for rejecting the solution being offered at the doorstep, which is the help of the federal government when it comes to the National Guard.
You know what? Just reading your comment there, Jed. I would absolutely ask Juan about that. And next time I have him on, I will, because I'm curious on his take about it. I think I have it figured out at this point, mostly the Malaysia 370 thing, but I've been on that train for years, man. I dove deep into that right after it happened. And this book, just look at this thing. This thing is 1,000 pages of crap. It takes you way off the way off the trail. I wonder if it was written just for that point, honestly. I think he'll come on again soon. I think he will be. He knows he's got the invite. He's been busy down in South Africa, and I knew he was traveling this weekend, but I think his page said he was back in the States now. So we're going to watch something from him here shortly. This was an interesting article earlier this month saying your consciousness can jump through time, meaning your gut feelings are memories from the future. Isn't that an interesting little... Your future self maybe is sending signals back to you now saying, don't touch that hot pan, retard. I don't know. I don't know what you would warn yourself of. Interesting, though, but trying to put my head into that one and really thinking about it, it would be like... I'll wait till it's winter time to think about stuff like that. No. This story was bouncing around right before I got on. Major leak of 100,000 emails from former Israeli Prime Minister Barak shows he and Jeffrey Epstein discussed meeting with Palantir founder Peter Thiel. MJ Truth looked deeper into these files, and he's not really buying the story. I guess the emails are supposed to be out there somewhere where you can find them. I don't know. Don't know what to make of that. But I think it just ties into the attacks on J.D. Vance right now. And especially as people talk about Trump's health and boost that story more, they're trying to shift more negativity towards J.D. Vance, preparing for him to be the person who, steps up next. They're going to attack. And that's what they're doing. This post was interesting. This is the most fascinating X post 2025. AIPAC thinks it's an attack on Marjorie Taylor Greene to accuse her of sharing the squad's unwillingness to be slavishly loyal to Israel. What this attack reveals is that AIPAC has so badly overplayed their hand, they now have real problems on the political left and right. The Post literally advertises their greatest weakness, growing bipartisan opposition. And this is from Matt Gaetz, by the way. Marjorie Taylor Greene isn't some outlier either here. Support for Israel is at a historic doldrum precisely because AIPAC has driven division, war, and chaos. They should register as the foreign agents they are. So, I mean, you at least have a few voices protesting the stuff Israel's doing, but it's so hard to take a side on that right now. This, I believe, is from Dan Bongino. Yesterday, the FBI successfully extradited to the U.S. from Estonia an alleged smuggler of U.S. electronics for over a decade, Andrei Shevlyakov, allegedly acquired electronics from U.S. manufacturers on behalf of the Russian government and military, and then shipped them to Russia through shell companies via Estonia, all in clear violation of U.S. exports and export controls. So, yeah, Little update there from Mr. Bongino. It's amazing these countries are suddenly working with us for extradition, but I do see the little, thing with Mexico that she was kind of backed into a corner on that one. I wanted to look at this story that popped up too real fast regarding Oklahoma. That's a different story. An Oklahoma audit.
These eye-popping results of a state audit finding 2 state agencies mismanaged more than $93 million federal COVID relief dollars. The state auditor is warning the federal government might try to get much of that back.
News 4's Spencer Humphrey has the findings.
It's past time for Oklahoma to put its financial house in order.
State Auditor Cindy Bird not sugarcoating what her office discovered while putting together this 200-page audit looking into how the state of Oklahoma spent federal COVID relief dollars. Her staff finding the state could be on the hook to repay the federal government upwards of $100 million from just the 2023 fiscal year alone because it spent them in questionable ways.
When Oklahoma takes money from the federal government, they are 100% responsible to make sure that those funds are spent properly. The federal government will take that money back from the state of Oklahoma, and then it will be up to the state of Oklahoma to recoup those funds.
She says there were 2...
That kind of sucks, huh? I was hoping it would go back to the people. I wanted to talk about this topic just for a second because we're going to look at some odd things to do with the shooting the other day. This is going around on a lot of people's thoughts today, talking about SSRIs, antidepressants, being something that all these school shooters had in common. People are really pressing it, though, a little too deeply, in my opinion. And I'm not going to lie, at a bad time in my life, I started taking them. I've been taking 13, 14 years. And I'm not a violent person anyway in that effect, but I'd probably more likely back then to do something stupid than now. I just don't, people are saying everybody is unhappy that's on antidepressants. That's not the case. I think what the problem here is, in my opinion, is that Americans are lazy, is what it is. Not that, they look for the easy way out. Every time they have a problem, it's let's go get a quick fix for it. I'm a little down, let's go get an antidepressant. No, it's not the way people fall into it, but I think at the time they helped me a tiny bit, and they're a bitch to get off of. So in the long run, I don't think they're worth it. I think that's the problem. It's just they are too quick to prescribe them. Does it make people's minds susceptible to some other form of mind control? That I couldn't tell you. It's probably in the long run just a coincidence. All these shooters probably had problems all their lives, and their parents take them to doctor. Doctor says, well, let's try an antidepressant, and let's try this, and let's put them on this. And that's the problem, in my opinion. It's just the country's looking for an easy solution all the time for these things.
Places like Uvalde have experienced one of the worst mass shootings in history. The CDC has previously been responsible for studying gun violence. A lot of those programs have been cut now. Would you still consider gun violence a public health crisis? And who's going to be...
I certainly consider mass shootings a health crisis. And we are doing, for the first time, real studies to find out what the etiology of that is. And we're looking for the first time at psychiatric drugs. These kind of mass shooting, people have had guns in this country forever. When I was a kid, we had shooting clubs at our school. People, kids, my classmates, other people, would bring a .22 rifle with their guns to school and park it in the parking lot. Nobody was shooting. So there's never been a time in America in the history of humanity. And people walked into a crowd, into a church or a movie theater or a school or a crowd of strangers and just started randomly shooting. It's happening in our country. It's not happening around the world. And there are many other countries that have comparable levels of guns that we have in this country. We had comparable levels in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, and people weren't doing that. Something changed, and it dramatically changed human behavior. And one of the culprits we need to examine is whether the fact that we are the most over-medicated nation in the world, and that a lot of those are psychiatric drugs that have black box warnings on them that warn of suicidal and homicidal ideation. So we are doing those studies right now for the first time, and we will have an answer.
See, in my opinion, I don't think over-medication is the problem itself. I think it's a symptom of the problem. And the problem, when you think about it, and he's right, we didn't have those kinds of shootings back then, and they don't have them in other countries around the world like we do. What do we got here, that's different from everywhere else? It's our media. It's this Hollywood, this fake, I don't even have a word for it. It's just, and it bleeds into the kids and the social media where that everything's this competition to be cool and get attention, it seems like. Maybe I'm saying that wrong, but I don't know. I mean, it was happening even before social media, but if you've paid attention, even when I was in high school and Columbine was like a big deal back then, when that happened, we weren't allowed to take book bags to class anymore. We weren't allowed to wear jackets in class anymore. That was a big change at that time. That was late 90s. All right, so you can see how the shootings have gone up with the social media pressure that's out there now. That being up everybody's ass connected with a phone so much that you can't take a crap without taking your phone into the bathroom with you. That's the problem. That's the problem. Over medication, it's just another symptom of that issue. That feeling that's made people feel like their lives are not worth anything, that you have to be some star or something, like that makes people depressed, anxious, and it just goes from there. My opinion on it, but Jack's not a doctor. Just a thinker. All right. Moving on to the school shooting the other day. This is one of the kids that died. Some people are calling it a false flag. Maybe don't know what to say there, It could be a false flag on the left side. It could be a false flag on the right side. It could be a false flag that actually happened, but was still meant to divert attention. You don't know. And I don't really want to guess either, but this is Fletcher. He was 8. He was 8 when he went to school the other day and went to pray. The boy I talked about that got ready for class, just wanting to go to school, just to get shot. Let's look at an update on how these kids are doing, where things stand first, from the media's perspective.
Remembered as a boy who loved fishing and a girl known for her laughter, this morning 8-year-old Fletcher Merkel and 10-year-old Harper Moisky now identified as the 2 children killed in Wednesday's mass shooting in Minneapolis. Outside Annunciation Catholic Church, Fletcher's father calling his son's killer a coward.
We will never be allowed to hold him, talk to him, play with him. Please remember, Fletcher, for the person he was and not the act that ended his life. Give your kids an extra hug and kiss today.
Harper's parents describing her as bright, joyful, and deeply loved, writing words cannot capture the depth of our pain. Among the wounded, 10-year-old Astoria Safe. Her father says she has shrapnel in her skull.
Her being here today is a miracle.
The church's stained glass windows shattered.
Where's the shooter?
Meanwhile, we're getting the first images from inside the church, students running moments after the attack. Authorities say the 23-year-old shooter who died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound was a former student at Annunciation who wrote about having recently broken up with a romantic partner and making reconnaissance trips past the school. Her writings and videos filled with hate.
The shooter was obsessed with the idea of killing children.
Meanwhile, we're hearing about acts of heroism in the face of danger. 9-year-old June Helene says her teacher and an older student assigned to be her buddy in church helped her take cover.
My buddy kind of grabbed my hand and then we kind of just ran out with my teacher.
What's it like to hear your 9-year-old tell that story?
It's very surreal. It doesn't feel like reality.
June's dad praising older students and staff who jumped in to help.
There's so much goodness here.
Now, back to that investigation. Authorities have said the shooter had no criminal record, but a police report just obtained by NBC News does show that police officers back in 2018 went to the home where the shooter was living with her mother. The reasons listed were mental health and a welfare check on a juvenile. Now, investigators this week have said they haven't been able to get into.
If you've noticed something, it seemed like every time they did this with teenage age kids, something stood out and got messed up or someone talked. And I'll admit a lot of these school shootings have problems with them. Florida, I'm not even going to say, I just won't even go there, but there's problems with this one too that don't add up. I don't know the layout of the church, but there's a lot of ages mixed in here for one. You've got kids that were like 8 that got hit, kids that were like 15 that got hit. That seems odd to me. You see that video there, everyone's just running out. The little girl says, "They grabbed my hand, we ran out." Like that was all that was happening. Well, I'm going to read a couple other things here too that just tie into it. Pull these up. Here's a couple of the other students. See, this one's in 8th grade. This one's in 1st grade. These two were wounded. They're fighting for their lives, according to that. So I'm a little confused there. Let me read a few of these things. It's irritating, I gotta admit, hearing these broadcasters calling him old girl. Let's make sure we call him by the proper pronouns. Okay. At the scene, police found 3 shotgun shells, 116 rifle rounds, 1 handgun round that appeared to have malfunctioned and become stuck in the chamber. So this time they didn't bother with getting you confused with the weapon. You got a shotgun, a rifle, and a handgun. No confusion there, huh? But it gets weirder. We're going to look at the weird stuff here people pointed out. This is from MJ. The police chief did not mention once the shooter was transgender. He says a lone Minneapolis police officer arrived on the scene 4 minutes after the shots were fired, and he ran into the building alone without SWAT gear to take out the shooter. But he must have been literally around the corner. It's reported that the shooter killed himself in the parking lot, the same parking lot that the officer would have arrived in, because there's only one parking lot. That's confusing, isn't it? Shots were reported at 8:27. The officer arrives at 8:31, just 4 quick minutes later, and misses the body outside in the parking lot, goes inside, goes back out, then finds the shooter has killed himself in the parking lot. You see how that kind of doesn't add up there? They only gave him a 4-minute time span from the time the call came in. The shots are being fired. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's plenty of time to get plenty of shots off, but they put the shooter out in the parking lot dead. All right. He's going to kill himself when he knows the cops are getting there, but the cop went in the building, came back out and found the shooter. You see how that doesn't work necessarily? I mean, maybe you can make that work. I can't make that work. Somebody said it's weird how they always have a manifesto. U.S. Attorney Joseph Thompson says they found hundreds of pages of writings depicting hate towards certain groups. Why is it they all have a manifesto which conveniently paints a picture of their state of mind? Why is it that most mass shooters are now trans or connected to the LGBTQ community? Why is it that most of these mass shooters are on SSRIs? Yeah, I still, well, you know what I think about that, but that timing just, that's so weird, doesn't add up. And of course, this Minnesota shooter's father, James Westman, reportedly worked 29 years as a senior application developer for ESRI, which provides GIS software to government agencies, including intel community members like the CIA, collaborates with the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency on the ICGIS portal used by the CIA and others for intelligence. He removed his LinkedIn profile photo. Yeah, so may have another high up daddy situation here. Don't know what to make of that necessarily. Not surprising. There's always a connection. Same thing. Father worked 29 years. Top level contractor. Doesn't mean he worked for the CIA. He was a contractor. And it is pretty interesting. There could be some pretty high up connections there. It doesn't mean he has to have high up connections. He could have done that stuff for the railroad for all we know. This was interesting post somebody shared. It says the shooter at the Minneapolis Catholic school was indeed Jewish. His manifesto contained anti-Semitic language, but this is a classic tactic used by Mossad to deflect the blame. He deliberately avoided a synagogue nearby and targeted a Catholic school instead. Another false flag to push gun control and label any criticism of Israel as hate speech. The mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Frey, is also Jewish and immediately used the event to question the power of prayer and push for gun bans. Well, that part's true, isn't it? It's a coordinated effort to disarm the public and silence dissent. Have you noticed in just these past few years how bad the war on Christianity's ramped up? I'm serious about this. There's so many parts we don't hear, like Juan talks about over in Africa and other situations, but right here alone, there's a war on Christianity, and it's becoming more and more visible every day. They can't hide it anymore. They can't hide their contempt. They can't hide their TDS. They can't hide their hate any longer. They can't hide the fact that what they're doing is all attempts to destroy the country, the economy, society, you name it. They can't hide it anymore. President Trump canceled nearly $700 million in federal funds for 12 offshore windmill projects, nearly $500,000 of which are in Gavin Newsom's California. It's kind of a funny move. All right, and that is all our news, I think. I want to look at this new video from the Reese Report real quick. Sometimes they're good, sometimes, I don't know what this one's about either, so we'll find out together. It's only a couple minutes.
While many people rightly say that money is already digital, when world leaders say digital money today, it means cryptocurrency, which is now part of a worldwide scheme to monitor your actions and control your money. This new form of currency will require you to have a unique digital wallet, which is essentially a digital ID. Last spring, European Central Bank President Christine Lagarde said that the ECB will be ready to launch the digital euro by this October. According to the Atlantic Council, 137 countries and currency unions are preparing for a crypto digital currency. 3 countries have already launched theirs: the Bahamas, Jamaica, and Nigeria. CBDCs in the advanced stages are the digital euro, China's digital yuan, India's e-rupee, the United Kingdom's digital pound, Brazil's digital real, and Russia's digital ruble. Hong Kong is preparing to launch a stablecoin. Japan's Financial Services Agency is preparing to launch a Japanese yen stablecoin this fall. And President Trump, who has been pushing stablecoin development, has repeatedly announced that the USA will lead the world in AI and crypto. His family is heavily invested and stand to make billions when the world goes crypto. The Trump family even have their own stablecoin, the USD1 stablecoin from World Liberty Financial. Trump's puppet masters likely have another stablecoin in mind to be the digital dollar, but a puppet can still dream. The only difference between a CBDC, central bank digital currency, and a stablecoin is name only. Both will be programmed according to the nation's financial policies. Both are capable of operating a carbon tax and a social credit score. The only difference is one will be managed by a central bank and the other by a private corporation. In the USA, something like BlackRock. CEO of BlackRock and longtime business associate of President Trump, Larry Fink, was recently appointed interim co-chair of the World Economic Forum. The Trump administration has been normalizing the deployment of the U.S. military as a police force in the streets of America. And according to Fox News, Pentagon officials are about to mobilize National Guard troops in 19 states to assist Homeland Security with President Trump's nationwide crackdown on illegal immigration and crime. This likely means ID checkpoints, because how else will a citizen prove their citizenship? But with a new digital ID, the military police state can simply scan you from a distance with Palantir technology. Doctors are discussing online how President Trump's swollen ankles and hand bruising are indications of congestive heart failure, the bruises on the hand being typical of IV diuretic treatments. The White House says it's from shaking hands. If Trump goes the unfortunate way of the clot shot, which he is still proud of, then J.D. Vance will be president, and he owes everything to Palantir's Peter Thiel, one of technocracy's biggest cheerleaders. The stage is now set for crypto and digital IDs, and if that happens, there will be pushback, especially in the 19 states being supplied with the National Guard. Greg Reese reporting.
Interesting. All right. That is our news. So, just to point out again what I'll be doing with the news now, this is where I would cut the video before we watch anything more. and after the intro. It's just a new category for those of you that just want to watch the news and don't want to watch the shows on this channel or don't want to watch the intro. That way you can just watch that. It'll be posted in a new playlist on the channel. Anyway, yeah, there's certainly more than one Trump. And that shouldn't be that surprising to anybody for a president, Shanna, because that's just something they do. So the lineup tonight's going to be Juan, SG Anon, and then Lieutenant Colonel Bozy. It's just about ready here. Get some things out of the way. I think it's important to watch this episode and find out what's going on, especially since I always like to turn to Juan first anyway. I think these are good people to turn to: Juan, SG Anon, Lieutenant Colonel Bozy. If these three don't know what's going on, I don't know. All right. It is ready. Let me pull it up here, boys and girls. Let's find out what the deal is.